never meant to see it. James had always been so careful with his phone. Passcode protected, face down on tables, never left unattended. But that rainy Tuesday in April, he'd forgotten it on the bathroom counter while showering. The notification lit up the screen like a flare in the darkness. Can't wait to feel you inside me again tomorrow. Our usual room. My fingers trembled as I picked up his phone. The message preview disappeared, leaving only the name Sarah W. and a small heart emoji beside it. Sarah, his colleague, the one he'd mentioned casually dozens of times over dinner, the one who needed his mentorship, the one whose husband was deployed overseas. The shower water continued drumming against the tile as I stood frozen, the phone suddenly heavy in my hand. 15 years of marriage collapsed into that single moment. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it and walked downstairs to the kitchen, my body on autopilot. By the time James came down, dressed in his crisp blue suit and smelling of that expensive cologne I'd bought him for Christmas, I'd already poured his coffee. Black. No sugar, just like every morning for the past decade and a half. He kissed my cheek absently, grabbed his travel mug, and headed for the door. "I'll be late tonight," he called over his shoulder. "Client dinner." I nodded, the lie settling between us like another piece of furniture. "Have a good day." After, he left. I sat at our kitchen island, surrounded by the perfect domestic life we'd built together. The renovated farmhouse kitchen with marble countertops that had cost more than my first car. The children's artwork magnetized to the refrigerator, Emma's soccer schedule, Tyler's honor roll certificate, the wedding photo where we looked impossibly young and hopeful. I called in sick to the elementary school where I taught 4th grade. My principal didn't question it. In 15 years, I'd rarely missed a day. Then I drove to the coffee shop, 3 towns over, where nobody would recognize me, and ordered the strongest coffee they had. I needed to think, to plan. The numbness that had enveloped me that morning was beginning to crack, revealing something raw and unfamiliar underneath. Not just pain, though God, there was plenty of that, but a strange, almost electric clarity. I'd spent my entire adult life being James Matthews's wife. I was 22 when we married, fresh out of college and dazzled by his confidence, his ambition, his certainty about everything. While he built his career in corporate law, I'd built our home, had our children, hosted the dinner parties with his colleagues, scheduled the vacations around his availability, shifted and accommodated and diminished myself until I fit perfectly into the spaces he left for me. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, our 14-year-old. "Mom, forgot my history project on the dining table. Can you bring it before 3rd period?" Normal life, still happening. Children still needing their mother. Obligations still requiring fulfillment. I texted back that I would, then sat staring out the window at the spring rain, turning everything green and alive outside. How strange that the world looked exactly the same when everything had changed. I thought about confronting him immediately. Imagined the stammered excuses, the minimizing, the eventual tearful confession. I thought about calling Sarah's husband overseas, about telling our friends, our families, about packing James's things and leaving them on the porch. But something stopped me. A voice inside that whispered, "Wait, watch, learn." Because the truth was, I didn't know what I wanted yet. 15 years, 2 children, a mortgage, intertwined families and finances and futures. You don't unravel that in a morning over bad coffee in a strange town. Whatever I decided to do next would change everything, not just for me, but for Emma, and Tyler too. So I drove to my children's school with the Forgotten History Project, smiled at the security guard, signed in at the front office, and delivered it to my daughter's classroom with a kiss on her forehead and a promise to make her favorite pasta for dinner. I played my part perfectly. And all the while, Beneath the surface, something inside me was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. For a week, I said nothing. I watched James with new eyes, cataloging the small deceptions that had become so routine I'd stopped noticing them. The late nights, the weekend emergencies at the office, the business trips that seemed to multiply on our shared calendar, the way he no longer reached for me in bed. I found myself wondering how long it had been going on. 6 months? A year? Had it started at that holiday party where I'd seen them laughing in the corner, his hand lingering on her lower back? Had they been sleeping together when he sat beside me at Emma's piano recital? When we celebrated our anniversary in Napa? When he held my hand at his father's funeral? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't just want confrontation. I wanted evidence, certainty, something solid to hold on to when the gaslighting began. Wednesday came, tomorrow, from Sarah's message. James announced another client dinner as he left for work. I nodded, packed lunches, drove carpools, taught fractions to 28 fourth graders, attended a faculty meeting, made dinner, helped with homework, loaded the dishwasher. Then I changed into jeans and a dark sweater, told our teenage babysitter I had a book club meeting, and drove to the Westlake Grand Hotel. I'd never followed anyone before, didn't know the protocols. But I knew James's silver BMW, and I knew which parking garage he always used downtown. I found it on the 3rd level, parked 3 rows away, and waited. The hotel bar offered a clear view of the lobby. I ordered a vodka tonic and pretended to scroll through my phone while watching the elevators. At 9:47, they emerged together. Sarah laughing at something he'd said, James's hand possessively on her hip. She was younger than I'd remembered, maybe 30, with the kind of effortless beauty that requires youth and money. They walked through the lobby like they belonged together, like they had every right to their happiness. I abandoned my half-finished drink and followed them outside. They kissed beside her car. Not a quick goodbye, but the lingering kiss of established lovers. Then James checked his watch and said something that made her laugh again. I was too far away to hear the words, but I recognized the gesture. He used to check his watch like that before kissing me goodbye too. When Sarah drove away, I followed James back to his car. He was humming as he walked, keys twirling around his finger. I stepped out from between 2 parked cars, and he startled. Jesus. Ellie, what are you doing here? Hello, James. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Calm, almost friendly. How was your client dinner? His face did something complicated. Surprise, then confusion, then the smooth reassembling into the mask I now realized he'd been wearing for years. It was fine. Peterson account. Why are you here? Is something wrong with the kids? The kids are fine. I just thought I'd surprise you. I smiled. Sarah looked lovely tonight. That red dress really suits her. His face drained of color so quickly I thought he might faint. He reached for the car to steady himself. Ellie, I can explain. Can you? That would be interesting. I crossed my arms, suddenly cold despite the mild spring evening. Have you been sleeping with her since you started mentoring her? Or did that come later? It's not... He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd always found endearing before. It's complicated. It doesn't mean anything. 15 years of marriage, and that's what you come up with. It doesn't mean anything? I laughed, and the sound echoed sharply against the concrete walls. If it doesn't mean anything, why risk everything for it? He took a step toward me, reaching out, but I backed away. Don't touch me. The calm was evaporating now, leaving something hot and jagged in its place. Don't you dare touch me. Please, let's not do this here. Let's go home and talk about this rationally. Rationally? The word tasted bitter. There's nothing rational about betrayal, James. He glanced around nervously, lowering his voice. Ellie, people can hear us. And that would be embarrassing. For you, wouldn't it? God forbid anyone knows that perfect James Matthews cheats on his wife, that he lies to her face every day. Stop it, he hissed, grabbing my arm. You're being hysterical. Something inside me snapped at his touch, at that word. Hysterical, the accusation men have used for centuries to dismiss women's legitimate anger. I jerked away from him. I'm going home to our children, I said, my voice steady again. Don't follow me. Don't come home tonight. I can't look at you right now without wanting to scream, and Emma and Tyler don't need to see that. You can't keep me from my own house. Watch me. I turned and walked away, my heartbeat thundering in my ears, but my steps remarkably steady. I didn't look back, but I heard him call my name once, then fall silent. In the car, I finally let myself shake, let the tears come. But even through the blur, I could see more clearly than I had in years. The path forward wasn't certain yet, but one thing was, I wouldn't be the same woman tomorrow that I had been yesterday. James came home. The next morning, before the kids woke up, I heard his key in the lock as I sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of tea gone cold. He looked terrible. Unshaven, shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. Good, I thought. Let him suffer. I stayed at Mark's, he said, as if I'd asked. As if I cared. The children will be up soon, I replied. They need to get ready for school. Ellie, we need to talk about this. Not now. He sank into the chair across from me, desperation radiating from him in waves. I'll end it. Today. I swear. It was a mistake. A stupid, meaningless mistake. How long? I asked. He blinked. What? How long have you been sleeping with her? He hesitated, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. How much to admit to, how much to conceal. Just tell me the truth, James. For once. 8 months, he finally said. 8 months. While I planned his birthday party. While we took the kids to Disney World. While I sat beside him at his mother's hospital bedside after her stroke. Have there been others? Another hesitation. Another silent calculation. Yes, he whispered. A few, over the years. Nothing serious. The strange calm that had sustained me through the night shattered. I stood up so abruptly my chair tipped over, crashing against the tile floor. Nothing serious? My voice rose despite my best intentions. You repeatedly violated our marriage vows, risked our family, lied to my face every day. And it wasn't serious? Mom. Emma's voice came from the doorway, small and frightened. What's happening? I turned to see both our children standing, there in their pajamas, confusion etched across their faces. Tyler, only 11, had his sister's hand clutched in his. The sight of them, innocent, vulnerable, their world about to implode because of their father's selfishness, nearly broke me. Nothing, sweetie, I said, forcing my voice to steady. Dad and I are just having a disagreement. Why don't you both go get dressed for school, and I'll have breakfast ready in 10 minutes. They didn't move, eyes darting between us. Everything's fine, James added with a false cheerfulness that made my skin crawl. Just grown-up stuff. Go on. After they reluctantly disappeared upstairs, I turned back to him. This is what's going to happen. You're going to act completely normal in front of the children. You're going to take them to school like you do every Thursday. Then you're going to find somewhere else to stay for a while. Ellie, I'm not finished. I need time to think, to decide what I want, what's best for Emma and Tyler. They need their father, he said, a note of panic in his voice. They needed a father who respected their mother. who kept his promises, who put his family before his dick. The crude word felt foreign on my tongue, but I was beyond caring about propriety. You made your choices, James. Now I get to make mine. The next few weeks passed in a fog of practicalities. James moved into a furnished apartment downtown. We told the children we were taking some space to work on our relationship, a euphemism that fooled no one, least of all our perceptive teenage daughter. I arranged for us all to start therapy, individual sessions for the kids, marriage counseling for James and me, though I wasn't sure there was anything left to salvage. Friends and family began to notice something was wrong. My mother asked pointed questions during our weekly calls. James's sister cornered me after church, demanding to know why her brother was suddenly living in that depressing bachelor pad. I deflected, protecting his reputation even as I fantasized about scorching it to the ground. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the retroactive doubt that poisoned every memory. Had he been thinking of someone else during our anniversary dinner last year? Was he texting another woman while sitting beside me at Tyler's baseball games? Had any of it been real? At night, alone in our bed, I'd find myself analyzing our sex life, wondering if all those times he'd turned away claiming exhaustion had actually been fidelity to someone else. I tortured myself with comparisons to imagined other women. Younger, more exciting, less weighted down by the practicalities of family life. But as the initial shock faded, something unexpected happened. In James's absence, I began to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Matthews, the college girl who'd wanted to write poetry, the young woman who'd dreamed of traveling, the teacher who'd once planned to get her master's degree, maybe even a doctorate someday. Somewhere along the way, I'd made myself smaller to accommodate his largeness. I'd convinced myself it was what good wives did: compromise, support, sacrifice. But watching my children navigate this new reality with courage I hadn't known they possessed, I realized I needed to model something different for them. Not just forgiveness or reconciliation, but self-respect, boundaries, the courage to demand what you deserve. 6 weeks after I'd seen that text message, I sat across from James in our marriage counselor's office and finally asked the question that had been haunting me. Why wasn't I enough? He looked startled, then pained. It wasn't about you, Ellie. Of course it was about me, I said quietly. Every lie you told, every night you spent with someone else. It was a choice to decide I didn't deserve honesty, that our vows didn't matter, that I wasn't worth fidelity. For the first time since this all began, I saw something crack in his careful facade of contrition. Something real. Don't know why I did it, he said, his voice breaking. I don't know who I've become. And strangely, in that moment of his complete vulnerability, I felt the first stirring of my own power returning. 2 months into our separation, I found myself in the university bookstore, running my fingers along spines of poetry collections and literary criticism. I'd taken a personal day from school, something I never used to do, to visit my old college campus. The original plan had been to meet with an academic advisor about returning for my master's degree, but I'd arrived early, drawn to the place where I'd once been most myself. The familiar scent of books and coffee transported me back 20 years. I remembered the girl I'd been then, confident, ambitious, certain I would write something meaningful someday. I'd published poems in the university literary journal. My professors had encouraged me to apply for competitive writing programs. Then I met James at a party during my senior year, and slowly, imperceptibly, my dreams became background noise to his. Professor Ellis? A woman's voice startled me from my reverie. I turned to see a vaguely familiar face. I'm sorry, do I know you? She smiled. Rebecca Okafor. You probably don't remember me. I was in your 4th grade class about 7 years ago. I'm a sophomore. Here now. Rebecca. I did remember her. Bright, curious, always with a book under her arm. "Of course I remember you. You wrote that wonderful story about the girl who could talk to birds." Her face lit up. "You remember that?" God, I was so proud of that story. You're actually part of the reason I'm majoring in education. I want to teach elementary school, too. Something warm bloomed in my chest. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a long time. We chatted for a few minutes about her studies, about how my current fourth graders compared to her class. As she walked away with a cheerful wave, I realized I was smiling, genuinely smiling, for the first time in months. The academic advisor was encouraging about my prospects for part-time graduate study. "Many of our students are returning professionals," she assured me, walking me through program requirements and financial aid options. "Your teaching experience will be invaluable in our literature and education courses." I left campus with application, materials, and a lightness I hadn't felt since discovering James's betrayal. That evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat at the kitchen table and began filling out the application. The personal statement prompt asked why I wanted to pursue graduate studies at this point in my life. I stared at the blank page, pen hovering. The truth was complicated. Because my husband's infidelity had shattered the illusion that sublimating my ambitions was a worthwhile sacrifice. Because I needed to prove to myself that I was more than just a wife and mother. Because I was terrified of what would happen if I didn't reclaim some part of my identity that belonged only to me. My phone buzzed with a text from James. "Kids asleep? Can I call to say goodnight?" Our new normal. He took the children on weekends, called them every night, maintained the fiction that this arrangement was temporary while we worked things out. Meanwhile, I'd seen Sarah twice around town. Once at the grocery store, where she'd ducked down another aisle to avoid me, and once at a stoplight, where she'd stared straight ahead, pretending not to see me in the next car. I texted back a simple yes, and returned to my blank personal statement. When the phone rang, I answered mechanically. "Hey," James said, his voice soft. "How was your day?" "Fine." I hadn't told him about the campus visit, hadn't told him I was considering graduate school. Some instinct made me keep these nascent plans close, protecting them from his opinion. Mine was awful. The Peterson account is falling apart, and Mark's not helping. "I miss having you to talk to about work stuff." He paused. "I miss you, Ellie." 3 months ago, those words would have melted me. Now they just made me tired. "James, I need to go. I'm in the middle of something." "At this hour? What are you doing?" The question irked me, as if I needed to account for my time to the man who'd spent countless evenings between another woman's legs while I waited at home. "I'm applying to graduate school," I said, the words spilling out before I could reconsider. "For a master's in English literature." Silence. Then cautiously. "Graduate school? When did you decide that?" "Today. Actually, no. I've been thinking about it for years. I just decided to do something about it today." Another silence. That's great. Ellie, really, but isn't it a lot to take on right now? With everything going on with us, with the kids?" There it was. The subtle undermining. The implication that my ambitions should wait until his life was settled. That my needs came after everyone else's. "This is exactly the right time," I said, surprising myself with my certainty. "I need to remember who I am outside of being your wife." The words hung between us, heavy with meaning neither of us was ready to fully acknowledge. "I understand," he finally said, though his tone suggested the opposite. "We'll talk more on Sunday when I drop the kids off." After we hung up, I returned to the blank page and began to write. Literature has always been my refuge and my passion. I'm applying to this program because after 15 years of helping young minds discover the magic of stories, I am ready to deepen my own understanding of the power of words. The sentences flowed easily, surprising me. Perhaps the woman I used to be had been waiting patiently all along, ready to emerge when I finally made space for her. Emma slammed her bedroom door so hard, the framed photos in the hallway rattled. I sighed, counting to 10 before knocking. Gently. Go away. Her voice was muffled, already thick with tears. Emma, honey, we need to talk about this. I don't want to talk. I want things to go back to normal. Normal. The word hit me like a physical blow. What was normal anymore? The life we'd had before? Was that normal? Or had it been a carefully constructed facade? A stage set where we all played our assigned roles without questioning the script? Can I come in? Please? Silence. Then a reluctant, fine. I found her face down on her bed, shoulders shaking. At 14, Emma inhabited that heartbreaking space between child and woman, vulnerable in ways that made my chest ache. I sat beside her, placing a tentative hand on her back. Dad says you won't let him come home, she said, her words half swallowed by the pillow. He says you're punishing him and it's hurting us. Anger flared hot and sudden. How dare he make me the villain in this story? How dare he use our children as emotional leverage? Your father and I are trying to figure things out, I said carefully. It's complicated, honey. She rolled over, her face blotchy from crying. Why won't you just forgive him? People make mistakes. Because it wasn't a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices made hundreds of times over years. Because forgiveness, without change, is just permission. Because I'm afraid I'll disappear completely if I go back to that life. But I couldn't say any of that to my daughter. Sometimes forgiveness takes time, I said instead. And sometimes it takes more than just saying sorry. It takes real change. But he is changing. He's different now. He calls every night. He takes us cool places on weekends. He even cried when we watched that stupid movie last Saturday. I bit back the observation that these were bare minimum parenting behaviors, not extraordinary efforts. That showing up for your children shouldn't earn special commendation. I'm glad he's being a good dad to you and Tyler, I said. That's really important. But it's not enough, is it? Her voice had a new edge. Almost adult, almost knowing. You're going to divorce him. The word hung in the air between us. Divorce. I hadn't said it aloud yet, not even to myself. I don't know what's going to happen, I admitted. I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, while you're figuring it out, we're the ones stuck in the middle. Tyler won't even talk about it. He just plays those stupid video games all day when Dad drops us off. And my friends keep asking questions I can't answer. Guilt twisted inside me. I'm sorry this is so hard on you. It's not fair. Then fix it, she said, her voice small again. Please, Mom. I pulled her into my arms, feeling her resist briefly, before collapsing against me. I'm trying, baby, I promise I'm trying. Later that night, I checked on Tyler, finding him still awake well past bedtime, the blue glow of his tablet illuminating his face in the darkness. Hey, buddy, it's late. He didn't look up. Dad lets me stay up till 11 on weekends. It's Wednesday. He shrugged, fingers tapping furiously at some game. I sat on the edge of his bed, watching the colorful animations flash across the screen. Tyler had always been my quiet child, the one who processed things internally. Since the separation, he'd grown even more withdrawn. Everything okay at school? Another shrug. Did something happen today? He paused the game, finally looking at me. Mason said his parents got divorced because his dad found someone better than his mom. Is that what happened to you and Dad? The question knocked the wind out of me. No, Tyler. That's not what happened. And that's a really hurtful thing for Mason to say. But Dad did find someone else, right? That's why he moved out. Children always know more than we think they do. They piece things together from overheard conversations, from changes in routine, from the emotional undercurrents adults try to shield them from. The problems between your dad and me are grown-up problems, I said carefully. But I want you to know that none of this is your fault. And both of us love you and Emma more than anything in the world. If you loved us, you wouldn't be breaking up our family. His voice was flat, matter of fact, but the words cut deep. Oh, Tyler. I reached for him, but he pulled away, returning to his game. I'm tired. Can I go to sleep now? I nodded, throat tight, and kissed the top of his head before leaving. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. The weight of their pain I couldn't fix, couldn't absorb for them, was almost unbearable. My phone buzzed with a text from James. Emma called me crying. What happened? I stared at the message, anger and exhaustion warring inside me. This was the impossible position of the betrayed spouse who chooses not to immediately forgive. You become the obstacle to healing, the unreasonable one, the source of ongoing pain. I typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on, "We can discuss this tomorrow." Then I went to my bedroom, our bedroom, and for the first time since discovering his infidelity, I let myself fully break down. Not the controlled crying I'd allowed myself in therapy, or the quiet tears after the children were asleep. This was raw, ugly sobbing that left me gasping, kneeling on the floor beside the bed where I'd slept beside him for 15 years. I cried for my children's pain, for the family we'd been, for the woman I'd been before all of this, trusting, certain, whole. And finally, I cried for the woman I was becoming, scarred but stronger, uncertain but braver, broken but somehow more complete than I'd been in years. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday in late September, 6 months after I'd found that text message. I stood in the kitchen, reading and rereading the words. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted into the Master of Arts in English Literature program." My hands trembled slightly. I'd done it. Starting in January, I would be a graduate student, taking evening classes twice a week while continuing to teach full-time. The practical details were daunting. Childcare on class nights, reading assignments, squeezed into lunch breaks, papers written in the pre-dawn hours before the kids woke up. But beneath the logistical anxiety hummed a current of pure, unexpected joy. I was still standing there, letter in hand, when James arrived to drop off the children. He'd taken them for dinner after school, part of our evolving custody arrangement, formalized now through mediators, but not yet through courts. We'd been existing in this liminal space for months, neither fully separated nor reconciled. Mom, Dad took us for sushi. Tyler barreled through the door, more animated than he'd been in weeks. Emma followed, rolling her eyes but smiling. Dad ate a whole glob of wasabi on a dare, she reported, dropping her backpack on the floor. His face turned completely red. James appeared in the doorway behind them, looking simultaneously sheepish and pleased at having generated this moment of family normalcy. His eyes fell on the letter in my hands. "What's that?" I hesitated, then handed it to him. "I got in." He scanned the letter, his expression unreadable. Then, to my surprise, he looked up with what appeared to be genuine pride. "Ellie, that's fantastic. Congratulations." "Thanks." I took the letter back, carefully folding it into its envelope. "I start in January." "January?" he repeated, something shifting in his eyes. So you've decided. The children had disappeared upstairs, leaving us alone in the kitchen, site of so many discussions, arguments, and revelations over the past months. I've decided to go to graduate school, yes. That's not what I meant. No, it wasn't. He meant the other decision, the one that had been forming gradually, almost imperceptibly, like a photograph developing in darkroom chemicals, the one I'd been avoiding putting into words. We should talk after the kids are in bed, I said quietly. He nodded, glancing at his watch. I have some calls to make. I'll come back at 9. 3 hours later, the children asleep, we sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. It felt appropriate somehow, the storm finally breaking after months of heavy, humid anticipation. I can't go back to how things were, I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected. I've tried to imagine it, but I can't. He nodded, eyes fixed, on his hands. I know. Do you? Because for months you've been acting like this is temporary. Like if you just wait long enough, if you're patient enough, everything will reset to normal. I was hoping... His voice caught. I was hoping you could forgive me. I have forgiven you, James. That's not the same as wanting to be married to you. He looked up then, startled. What does that mean? It means I don't hate you anymore. I don't even blame you, not really. We both let our marriage become something neither of us recognized. You sought escape through other women. I disappeared into motherhood and teaching and being the perfect faculty wife. I never asked you to be perfect. No, but you accepted. The benefits of my efforts to be. You liked the spotless house, the well-behaved children, the Christmas cards sent on time, the dinner parties where everyone commented on what a wonderful hostess I was. He was quiet for a long moment. I did. Love you, Ellie. I still do. I believe you, I said, surprised to find I meant it. But love isn't enough. Not anymore. So what happens now? I took a deep breath. I think we should move forward with the divorce. The word hung between us, no longer theoretical. James closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. If that's what you want. It's not about what I want. It's about what I need. I leaned forward, willing him to understand. I need to know who I am outside of this marriage. I need to pursue my own dreams without worrying about how they fit into your life. I need to show Emma what it looks like when a woman values herself enough to make hard choices. And there's no other way? No path where you do those things and we still find our way back to each other. The longing in his voice nearly undid me. For a moment, I saw the young man I'd fallen in love with, earnest, ambitious, looking at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe someday, but I can't promise that, and it would be cruel to let you hope for it. He reached across the table and took my hand. For the first time in months, I didn't pull away. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry I didn't see you, really see you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to be less so I could be more. Tears pricked at my eyes. I'm sorry, too, for letting it happen, for not speaking up sooner, for teaching our daughter that a woman's worth is measured by her ability to maintain a perfect household and a happy husband. We sat like that for a long time, hands clasped across the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals, helped with countless homework assignments, mapped out vacations and futures and dreams. Outside, the storm intensified, rain lashing against the windows, but inside was only quiet. The quiet of endings, yes, but also of truth finally spoken. You're going to be amazing in graduate school, he said finally, squeezing my hand before letting go. They're lucky to have you." "Thank you." I stood up, suddenly exhausted. "We should tell the kids together. This weekend, maybe." He nodded, rising as well. "I'll call the mediator tomorrow. Get the paperwork started." At the door, he turned back. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, Ellie. I always was. I just forgot to tell you." After he left, I returned to the kitchen and pinned my acceptance letter to the refrigerator, right next to Emma's soccer schedule and Tyler's latest math test. A small act of claiming space, of asserting that my achievements deserved to be displayed alongside my children's. A declaration that Ellie Matthews existed not just as a mother, a teacher, a soon-to-be ex-wife, but as a woman with her own story still unfolding. Outside, the storm began to pass, the spaces between thunderclaps growing longer, the rain softening to a gentle patter. I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window, watching the clouds part to reveal a sliver of moon. Not full, not new, but waxing, growing incrementally brighter night by night.